You are Locked On Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
And hello and welcome into the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. Grant McAuley, Jake Mastroianni with you after yet another Braves win, yet another shutout. And how about a sweep for the Atlanta Braves as they return home after that long road trip and they just sweep away the New York Yankees in 3 consecutive games. And I would say a very convincing series for the Atlanta club and for the New York club, just kind of spiraling down the stretch the way that they have been for a while. 2 teams heading in very different directions, but I don't know that you need me to tell you that. And once again, Grant McAuley, Jake Mastroianni with you. We'll tell you all the things about this game. It was the 120th of the year, if you can believe that, for the Braves. We were coming down the stretch as we reached the midway portion of August. A lot of great stuff to talk about in this 2-0 win, including a great performance by Charlie Morton. 1 timely home run for the Braves offense was all they needed on this night. We'll get into that, the man that hit it. And, of course, we'll get you set up for the weekend series against the San Francisco Giants. Before we get started with all that, I want to remind you to subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta right here on YouTube. Hit that bell so you get notified whenever we drop a new episode. Go ahead and hit that like button. That's how we'd like to start every show. Leave us a comment. We appreciate that. And subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Jake, it was great pitching, timely hitting. I don't know that there's a better, recipe for the Braves or a better way to, win a game than putting those 2 things together. And the Braves pretty much did it the entire series against New York.
Especially these last 2 as well. Look, and it's great to see this team be able to win in different ways now. It doesn't just have to be the offense out there slugging, scoring 5+ runs a game. Be able to see the pitching do what they did in this series. You get just enough offense, a couple of key home runs, like you said, and that's it's another recipe for this Braves team to win.
Yeah, I mean, they're not just beating you into submission. I mean, they could do that. That happened in game 1, I think. Then game 2, there was just enough long balls. And in game 3, it was only 1 home run, but it was the only one the Braves needed, and it came in the 2nd inning of the game, and that was all the scoring in this game. It's a 2-0 win for the Braves. Again, game number 120 of the year. The Atlanta club is now 78-42. 2 runs, just 3 hits, no errors, 3 men left on base. Yankees dropped below 500. They're now 60-61 after being swept in the 3-game series in Atlanta. Shut out on 4 hits, no errors, 5 men left on base. Charlie Morton, the winner, he's a big reason why the Yankees were shut out. This was a great performance for Charlie. He's 12-10. Randy Vasquez, he looked pretty good. Made 1 mistake. The Braves made him pay for it. He's 2-2. Raisel Iglesias, his 23rd save as the Braves bullpen was able to complete that shutout in a very brisk 2 hours and 8 minutes. 40,743 paid to see it at Truist Park. And let's start with the man on the mound for those fans to see. It was Charlie Morton, and we kind of wondered what's it going to look like after what had been a rough patch for him. An oddly good start last time out against the Mets, 5 scoreless innings, but 7 walks. That was not very Charlie Morton-like. This one, though, Jake, this was vintage Charlie Morton.
It was. And what do you really notice about this when you look at his pitch mix in this one? Almost 50% curveballs. I mean, that pitch was just working for him. We know how great of a pitch that is. One of the best singular pitches in all of baseball when it's on. And he just went to it in this one. And credit to him. Again, been struggling kind of here lately, trying to find his release point, his command and all that. And curveball's really working on him tonight and didn't go away from it. And again, threw it 44 times, 24 swings, 12 whiffs for a 50% whiff rate on that pitch. So again, just really, credit to him. 8 called strikes on it too. So 20 whiffs plus called strikes on a singular pitch.
Wow.
That's really good for Charlie Morton. And mix it up as well. Not as many fastballs, threw more cutters in this one. So again, good to see Charlie Morton kind of going with what's working, sticking with it, kind of switching things up a little bit, as well as, again, really just been looking for that consistency. These are the starts, and these are the reasons why you still believe in Charlie Morton and why he can be such a dominant pitcher. He has it in there. It's finding that consistency, and that's something that's really been a struggle for him over the past 2 years now. But when he's on and he can command that curveball like this, he can shut down just about any lineup in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, that curveball is an elite pitch, as you mentioned, one of the best in all of baseball as far as breaking balls in general. And Charlie's used it to great effect in his, late career resurgence, or if you will. Really, I mean, he was a late bloomer, and he has become a, just an outstanding strikeout pitcher for a number of years, dating back, 5-6 years ago when he signed with the Houston Astros. And, the curveball is a big reason why. The fastball, though, that command, I think, was really not with him in New York. And it's interesting you pointed out he threw more cutters in this one. Maybe that was a pitch he felt like he could locate a little bit more. But to your point, if the curveball's going that way, you might as well just lean into it. And it would seem that that's exactly what Charlie Morton did. 6 innings of shutout ball, 4 hits, only 1 walk, 10 strikeouts for him. Great to see a double-digit strikeout game. Jake, you broke down the pitch mix and why it happened, but there was a time in this 4-start stretch after the good one against the White Sox coming out of the All-Star break where you just kind of wondered. I mean, the strikeouts were down, but the stuff was there. What exactly is Charlie Morton dealing with? And it didn't just seem to be one start or just the next one, that he was kind of turning the corner, figuring it out. It just kind of seemed to snowball on him. And somehow, some way, it seemed like maybe he started to course correct against the Mets because he just had to pitch his butt off to get out of that game in 5 innings and not allow a run with the 7 walks. But this one just felt a lot more like he was in control. And maybe he and Travis d'Arnaud just discussed that before the game. Let's lean into what we feel like is working and just run with it unless or until it stops working.
Yeah, and obviously a good game plan and one that worked out. But I really think that's just kind of what it is for Charlie Morton. And there's going to be games where you don't have a particular pitch and you got to battle through it. I think that's part of what he had in the last game. But again, this is one where I thought he had his stuff working. And you mentioned that cutter, I guess I mentioned it, but he threw it 16 times in this game. Not a single one put in play, 2 whiffs on it, 4 foul balls on that pitch. So they weren't able to really square it up or put it in play. So again, maybe that's something else they kind of just felt more comfortable with. So for him, it's, again, the stuff is there, all about just finding that mix. We talked about it last time, him just trying to find that release point. So again, good for Charlie, but it's still, for me, it's about the consistency. What does it look like next time out? Because we've seen good starts like this and stretches for Charlie, and then he'll lose it. And he has those inconsistent kind of blow up starts for 2-3 starts in a row. So hopefully this is, again, the beginning of Charlie Morton really starting to figure things out, lean into the pitches that he knows he can trust the most, and we see more dominant outings like this from him.
Yeah, it'd certainly be helpful. And even if he's not throwing that cutter a lot, I mean, nobody's asking him to become Mariano Rivera with it or anything, but it's one more wrinkle that hitters have to account for. And when you throw 96, 97 with a curveball that just flat out falls off the table that you have to deal with, one more pitch could be just that much more deadly and could just give that much more pause to a hitter that's trying to figure out what exactly Charlie's working with and what he's looking to do in a particular at bat. As far as the Braves offense is concerned, there wasn't much on this day, but Marcell Ozuna, a double, Eddie Rosario, a 2-run homer. These guys just lit it up in this series against the New York Yankees. Going back and looking at, for Ozuna, this has been going on for a while, a 14-game hitting streak now, as he just continues to find his way on base. He was 5 for 7 in the series, had a home run himself. He also walked 5 times, including some more on Wednesday. And then Rosario, 4 for 10, couple of home runs, a 2-run shot to left center field was all the Braves would need to win this game. And Jake, this is a lineup, and we can really focus on it again because Ozzy Albies is out. It's not up to 1 or 2 hitters to beat you. You're going to have to go through the teeth of this Atlanta lineup, and there are players up and down 1 through 8, 1 through 9 that are going to be able to beat you on any given night. And Ozuna and Rosario have been proof positive of that in the series.
They have. I mean, you're looking at a 5 and 6 hitter in the lineup right now that kind of carried the Braves in these last couple of games here. And that's just how deadly this lineup can be. You know that. You give them 27 outs to play with. You just feel like at some point, somebody in this lineup is going to run into one, and you just hope a runner or two is on when that happens. And you saw it again in these last 2 games. All their runs scored on home run balls, and all of them multi-run homers. So it's just, again, we talked about it all season long, just how deadly this lineup can be. A night where they only have 3 hits, but again, one of those is a big 2-run homer. And with the pitching that you have right now, the way it's going, that's all you needed. So again, love that where the offense can somewhat take a night off and you can still win because you're able to run into a big home run to give you a lead and your pitching's able to hold it.
Yeah, and the pitching was able to hold it. I mean, that was a 2-run homer in the second inning. And that lurking in that Yankees lineup, there's Aaron Judge, there's Giancarlo Stanton, I mean, Gleyber Torres. There are some guys that can hurt you. I mean, those are the 3 that come to mind. And obviously they're grouped together in the middle of the order, at top and middle of the order for just that reason. How about how Charlie Morton closed out his day as well? In that 6th inning, the leadoff single from Torres strikes out Judge and strikes out Stanton on his way to punching out the side to get to double digits in strikeouts. I think that was just the exclamation point on. You mentioned it earlier, what are we seeing from Charlie Morton? Is he in fact turning the corner? Putting that kind of, just stamp of approval, if you will, on this start, going through the tough hitters in a close game with a lead that was, manageable, but could go away real quick if you make a mistake. Charlie Morton was able to thread that needle and looked extremely good in doing it.
He did, and then you hand it off to that bullpen who we talked about yesterday has just been, I think, kind of slept on and how good they've been in all this because you look at all the games that they've won and it's by such a large margin, but you close things out and nobody in that bullpen has to throw more than 11 pitches. I mean, you talk about, Charlie Morton put in an exclamation point on the end of his outing. That bullpen as well, I mean, just gave no chance to that Yankees offense. So again, a lot of credit to them. I think they get a little bit overlooked because there's been so much attention on the starting rotation and so much attention on the offense, but this bullpen has been great as well.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about the three men that close this thing out after Charlie Morton. After I tell you about one of our great sponsors, as this episode of the Braves Postcast is brought to you by Bunches, and Bunches is a place where sports fans chat, and the Locked On MLB group chat is on Bunches. So go there now, connect with other baseball fans, chat your favorite team, and keep up with the latest MLB news. You can chat your team every day. Download the Bunches app, and when you do, our friends at Bunches have featured the Locked On MLB Bunch in the Discover tab. So just click on that. You can also click on the link in the description in the show notes and join the Locked On MLB Bunch community today. As far as the bunch in the Braves bullpen that was working on this night, well, it was Pierce Johnson, who has been quite the pickup from Colorado. Let's talk about his 10 1/3 innings of one-run ball. That run wasn't even earned. That was in his debut with Atlanta way back in late July. 13 strikeouts, Jake, against just 6 hits. Kirby Yates is on a nice run since the same time in late July. 8 2/3 innings over his last 9 appearances. No runs allowed, only 2 hits, 8 punch-outs for him. These are a couple of guys that have been doing great, and then they handed off to Raisel Iglesias with 10 consecutive scoreless outings now. The bullpen, while it has been asked to cover a lot and to do a lot, particularly when you're talking about the starting rotation not being able to get you to the point of the game where you want to hand it off to the bullpen, I think you're on to something. This is a group that may not get talked about enough and is really coming together at a very crucial and important time of the year as we head down the stretch.
It obviously helps when your starters, as you mentioned, are going deeper into games. If your starters are going out in the 3rd and 4th inning, then maybe your bullpen is going to get exposed a little bit. But when you got starters who are going deep into the game, and you can go into that back end where you got Pierce Johnson now, who's been pitching really well since coming over to Atlanta. Kirby Yates coming in with what he's doing, and I like the slider that he started to mix in. He didn't get a chance to throw it tonight because didn't have to throw too many pitches. But if he starts working that in as well, it becomes another little wrinkle for him. Iglesias, you mentioned, he's been so great lately. So many clean outings like he had on this night as well. Just stress-free endings to your game like you like to have. Haven't even mentioned AJ Minter, who's coming back as well, or is back and is getting into the groove. And then Joe Jimenez. I mean, you look at this group now that the Braves have on the back end, and you really start to feel pretty good about closing things out at the end of the game. Again, especially if your starters are in this run like they are now, going 6-7 innings. Again, it doesn't have to leave as much work for this bullpen and the guys you have back there. I think you're really starting to have a lot of trust in them.
Yeah, and while the Braves may still be trying to figure it out in the 5th spot of the rotation, all of a sudden, for as bad as things were going for the rotation during that road trip, particularly Chicago and Pittsburgh, things kind of course corrected, and you had to figure that it would when you look at the track record of Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Spencer Strider, Bryce Elder. I mean, these are guys that were capable of doing way more than they did in those short outings that we saw over the course of that road trip. You just needed to see that happen very quickly because it's a good way to run down a bullpen if you're not able to get at least 5, 6, 7 innings a night. And most nights, I mean, if you got to cover for one spot in the rotation one time through and you got an off day that's kind of conveniently located, you're able to do it. But the Braves bullpen has definitely answered the call, and I think the rotation has helped out, of course, of late, and that has brought everybody to an off day that they're very much looking forward to, Jake. It was 14 games in 13 days for the Braves, but as they wrap this thing up, a season-high 36 games over 500, and this also for the New York Yankees, being under 500 in the middle of August, that's not something that's happened since 1995. In fact, early September, I should say 1995, late in the season anyway. This is just not something you see from the New York Yankees, and they got a lot of things to sort out.
That's one of the craziest things I had heard. I did not realize that till I heard it announced during the game that they hadn't had a losing, or that wasn't even their last losing season. I think their last losing season was 1992. So again, it is just, that was an incredible stat that I had heard. They go that long and be that good and that successful. Just, you know how great that Yankees, team is and how great they've been over those years. So I thought that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, the lineage of that club, if I understand correctly, they may have won a few World Series, so they don't really have a high tolerance for losing seasons, and I don't think they're enjoying too much the way that things have come apart up there in the Bronx. But this is not the Yankees postcast, it's the Braves postcast, and we're going to get you set up for the next series for the Braves, which will be against the San Francisco Giants, a team that used to play in New York, and that is apropos of nothing. However, this episode of the Braves Postcast is also brought to you by eBay Motors, who remind you a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit, and it's the same with your vehicle. So for parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for that green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only and exclusions apply. Braves and Giants will open up a 3-game weekend series after the off day on Thursday. Braves are going to enjoy that and have zero baseball activities whatsoever. We're going to be a lot of fun around the ballpark with a lot of old, Braves alumni out there as well. And I think it's going to be kind of fun to take a look at the San Francisco Giants, a team that has kind of put some things together, Jake. It should be an interesting series. It's to be determined against Spencer Strider. I believe it's set to be Alex Cobb, but that was not confirmed by the Giants, at least from what I could check. But more importantly, Spencer Strider, last start out against the Mets was a good one for him. Can he build on that as he guns for win number 14 of the year?
Certainly hope so. Would love to see him get on a run. I mean, I hate to bring it up because I know there's bigger things ahead, but if he can just get on a roll like he was in his last start, get a couple of scoreless outings, he gets back in that NL Cy Young mix because everything else is there for him. But grateful this off day that the Braves have coming up. You mentioned the 14-game stretch, back-to-back 4-game series, a 3-game losing streak in there, and they still win 9 games of those 14. So again, Braves are back on a roll. But you got this big West Coast trip coming up again, not to look too far ahead. So enjoy this homestand while the Braves have it after this off day coming up on Thursday.
Yeah, nice long homestand for the Braves. It continues against the Giants on Friday night. Spencer Strider is 13-4 with a 3.75 ERA. Pitcher yet to be determined for the Giants. But again, we believe it'll be right-hander Alex Cobb, the veteran, on the mound for San Francisco. 7:20 p.m. Eastern time, the first pitch at Truist Park on Friday as the Braves and Giants open up that series. We're going to close out this edition of the Braves Postcast, but as always, I'll remind you to subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta here on YouTube. Make sure you click that bell so you get notified when we drop a new episode. Click the like button, leave us a comment, share the show with a friend, and subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Once again, a good night for the Braves, a great series for Atlanta. They close out the 3-game sweep of the New York Yankees with a 2-0 victory behind Charlie Morton and a clutch home run from Eddie Rosario. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Grant McAuley. We will catch you over the weekend. And until then, so long, everyone.